So I'm from Bloomfield Hills, and I am now. I just finished my sophomore year at the University of Michigan, and I'm majoring in public policy and minoring in Spanish. And I started going to Edge the end of my junior year, and I went through my senior year. And I'm really into rock climbing. That's another one of my big
It's
personality
important. It's
traits.
important.
Yeah.
What school did you go to? High school.
Oh, I went to International Academy in Bloomfield Hills.
Can you explain like what Dressember is?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like why I wanted to talk with you and for you to share. So just kind of what's the overview of it, and then we can kind of go from there.
Okay. Dressember is a nonprofit and advocacy organization and an advocacy campaign. So it's an advocacy campaign when people wear a dress or tie every day of December to raise awareness of human trafficking while they're fundraising to help end it. So all of the money that advocates fundraise for Dressember goes to the Dressember Foundation. And then it varies every year, but they have different partners that they'll distribute the money to that are actually doing the work on the ground. So, and their three pillars are prevention, protection, and what is it? It used to be prevention, rescue, and aftercare, but they changed the wording a little bit.
Is it like three P's now?
Yes.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to make it more trendy.
Yeah. So some of their partners that they work with um, will just do prevention services or
Mm.
advocacy work, and then others will actually conduct rescue operations of human trafficking victims, and then a lot of them do aftercare for survivors, and they work domestically, or some of them work internationally as well.
So what made you aware of like the issue of modern day human trafficking and slavery?
My cousin Sarah, she's 3 years older than me, or 3 grades older than me. She did Dressember a few years before I started doing it. The first year I did it was in 2018.
Okay.
And so that's how I first heard about it, from her doing it. Um, but I was like, at that point, I was just like, oh, that's really cool. I wasn't really hooked on the idea. I was just supportive of her. And then in the fall, 2017, I went to the Women's March convention in Detroit, and that was when I really picked up my passion for social justice and women's rights specifically. So after that, social justice issues and human rights issues were just way more on my radar. So I was reminded of Dressember when I watched this movie called Priceless, and it was fiction. It was about human trafficking, and at the time, I don't know how dramatized it was or how accurate it was. It just like reminded me that human trafficking is an issue. Um, and so that's when I started doing a little bit more research, looked into Dressember more, and got more involved.
So can you give a summary of the issues that are going on right now?
Yeah, so um, there's about there's more than 40 million people that are currently in human trafficking right now, and every year the human trafficking industry generates about $150 billion, which
Wow.
is one of the things that keeps it going, is just greediness for profit. Um, it happens everywhere. It happens in Michigan. It happened at Groves. I have a book called um, "The Slave Down the Street," and it was about this girl, I think in the 90s, that was trafficked while she was going to school. So
Mm.
she went to school every day. She lived with her family. They didn't know until they moved to like Pennsylvania, and that's how she got out of it. Um, so it's can happen in so many different situations. It's not like you get kidnapped and then you're human trafficked now. Like there's so many different ways it can happen, and it's communities that are marginalized, Black people, the LGBTQ community, they're especially vulnerable,
Mm.
and they're disproportionately impacted by human trafficking. Um, what else? Oh, and women and girls. I think about 71% of human trafficking victims are women and girls. And then
That
there's,
seems kind of low to me. Like I'm actually surprised
yeah,
that
honestly,
it's that low.
right.
I mean, it's high, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's well, so labor trafficking is the most
Okay.
prevalent human trafficking, even though people mostly just talk about sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Um, so there's several different types of trafficking, and they sort of all fall under labor trafficking, but they could be domestic servitude or child marriage, child soldiers, um, forced labor. So
Hmm.
there's lots of different types, and again, it's happening everywhere. And um, since I've gotten more involved in policy, I've been learning a little bit more about the policy side of things and how a lot of human trafficking victims are criminalized because law enforcement thinks they're prostitutes, which is illegal. So um, they will give them criminal charges, and they won't, that's not trauma based. Like that can be even more traumatizing, getting arrested by law
Mm.
enforcement.
Yeah.
And once they have those criminal charges, a lot of times that it stays with them the rest of their lives and just puts them at a constant disadvantage for getting housing or a job when like it wasn't their fault. And especially during COVID, human trafficking has victims have been even more vulnerable. People who have survived human trafficking, a lot of them have lost their jobs, and that's making them more vulnerable to getting back into a cycle of trafficking. And just populations in general are more vulnerable. So human trafficking is something that's can happen more easily.
So have you seen the impact from your efforts?
Every year I lead a team. That's one thing you can do with Dressember. You can advocate by yourself, or you can join a team or lead a team. And um, I just felt really inclined to lead a team the first year I did it. So I had my started out with like me and three other friends, and then we grew to a team of I think almost 30. And that first year we raised a little over $9,000. And then the second year we raised a little over 4,000. And that was a little challenge. That was more challenging because I just got to college and
Mm.
I wasn't a club. Um, I'm actually trying to make Dressember in a club right now, so that's exciting.
That'd be awesome.
That's really cool.
Thank you. And then this
Wait,
past,
hold on one second.
yeah,
And then you can keep going.
okay.
You're telling me that as a high school senior, you made a team of 30 people and you raised $9,000.
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane. Like that's crazy.
I surprised myself. I was like, every time we made money, I'm like, how is this happening? This is a huge number. And yeah, it was not what I expected at all. Our initial goal was, um, I think a little under 7,000 which is still super high. And I didn't really think we were going to reach it. And my friends on the team didn't think we were going to reach
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Why are you setting this goal so high? But that a little under 7,000 is what Dressember estimates can fund an entire rescue operation. And so I was like, I want to do that. So and it doesn't necessarily mean that that money would go towards a rescue operation specifically. It's just sort of to contextualize what the money can do. So yeah, we ended up surpassing that and raised a little over 9,000.
That's amazing. Okay, so continue. You're talking about this year, I think.
Oh yeah, then this year we raised a little over 7,000, and that was crazy because it was during COVID, but it was amazing to see how generous people were. And our goal was 7,000, and we reached it on New Year's Day, which was crazy. I spent
Wow.
several hours on New Year's Eve reaching out to people individually, reaching out to people who had already donated, asking if they could ask their friends to donate, and it worked. So it was very cool.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So you've raised money and that's going towards helping fight this. Have you felt um like you've raised more awareness too? Like, is that a part of the goal, is to like kind of get other people interested or aware or caring about the topic?
So the awareness part, well, the getting people to join that team the first year, that made people a lot more aware. Like the team members were learning
Yeah.
about human trafficking. And what else? Also at um, one of the ways that we recruited people and got people interested in the team was I talked to me and the three other girls talked to our principal and asked if we could show. There's a TED Talk, so I recommend everyone watch the TED Talk about Dressember, and it just gives a good summary.
Cool.
Um, and they had that play in every homeroom one day, and so that raised some awareness. And um, I gave a couple presentations to Dressember team members about Dressember in general and human trafficking to help them have context. And I'm still learning a lot too. Like um, it's had a huge impact on me, like just having this issue that I'm really passionate about,
Hmm.
being motivated to learn more about it. Um, I mean, everyone I ask to donate, even if I like don't give them a whole lecture about human trafficking, they are like reminded that it's a
Hmm.
problem, which I think is really valuable. One of my friends that helped me run the team, she, her specifically, it was just really cool to see the impact that Dressember had on her because she um, told me that she was just really inspired by my passion for the fighting the issue, and
Hmm.
that she like pretty much absorbed that and became really interested in it and really invested. And I've had a couple people uh, like I've seen them get more invested in it than they were originally just because they're learning more and participating more. So that's been really cool.
Okay, so what would you encourage students about when it comes to injustice or like suffering or just like tough things in the world, I guess, in general, that's happening in the world? Like, what would kind of you encourage them about this topic? Not like human trafficking in general, but like broader than that.
Well, there's a lot of suffering in the world, and it's I've been overwhelmed before as an activist, like thinking, what do I work on?
Mm,
And um, I think it, I don't know, narrowing in on a specific issue is really great because you can focus your energy into that and like for Dressember, surprise yourself and raise over $20,000 in 3 years. And um, I would say human trafficking, that issue specifically, I was drawn to just because it just is a complete and clear violation of human rights. Um, and I just it's just one of the most horrible things in the world, I think. So
mm,
finding an issue that you really care about, that you really feel strongly about, um, that will motivate you to help solve it. And it will also, like I was saying earlier, your passion for that issue will radiate to
mm.
other people and will increase the number of people in the movement trying to solve that issue. So I know it can be so overwhelming because there's so many different issues you can get involved with, but um, I mean, you just have to recognize you can't do everything, and you can't help everyone, but you can help someone. And so that's sort of what Dressember has been for me. So narrowing in on an issue, or dabbling in a bunch of different issues and seeing what speaks to you, um, would be a good thing to do.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool and so inspiring. And I think, my hope for students that get to watch this is just that they are inspired that like doing something about this isn't just for when you grow up, get older, have a job. Like you can do something starting now, and it might be small, but something's better than nothing. And helping one person makes a world of a difference for that one person.
Right. Yeah. The other thing, I kind of said this already, but just to reinforce it, is that when you're passionate about something, like you can get so much done. I've seen, and I was just so surprised by what we were able to do. So yeah, you can get a lot done when you're really invested in something and when you care deeply about it.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing. And I know this will really motivate some students, if not a lot of students, to do something about the situations around them.